So, the thing about buying a $100,000 destination RV is that you generally expect it to not physically attack you. This is part 4 of a multi part series called The Quest for Waterfront Dirt. To catch you up, part 1, we bought waterfront dirt. Part 2, we realized we had no idea what we were doing and what we were going to put on it. And part 3 was where I spent months obsessing over destination RVs as the perfect solution. And honestly, we were this close to buying one. We had the perfect model picked out. We were at different dealerships, had two dealerships competing against each other. We were doing the final let's touch everything walkthrough before deciding this is what we were going to purchase. And then my husband opens a kitchen drawer and he gets a splinter, a giant, jagged splinter from the luxury cabinetry of a brand new 6-figure RV. And that was the moment the destination RV dream died. Welcome to Sarah's Side Quests, where everything, honestly, is a side quest. Like and subscribe. Now, you have to understand something about my husband. Back in part 2, he made it very clear. He did not like manufactured homes. He had a stigma against them, thought they were flimsy, didn't want anything to do with them. And honestly, he felt the same way about RVs prior to this adventure as well. So we pivot. We're now looking for a manufactured home. Not because we wanted to, but because the RV quality is just insulting. I wasn't exactly happy to throw 4 months of work out the window, but at least it made sense if you took the price of several of the destination RVs and compared it to the price of a higher end single wide or single section. You really do get so much more for the money. In fact, with the right situation and negotiation, you could get the manufactured home cheaper than the destination trailer, and you'd have better construction, better insulation, more interior space, and much better financing options. Moving to a manufactured home with a mortgage on it would allow us to do a type of construction loan where we could wrap in the cost of having power, water, septic, possibly a dock, and any additional site work done. This was important for 2 reasons. One, we'd paid cash for the prior site work, and the pad was for a maximum of 45 feet for an RV. Most single sections are at least 65 foot and can go as big as 80 feet. If we were changing the parameters, there would need to be additional work done, and we simply didn't have that much cash available anymore. 2, the other reason was that in addition to the RV pad, we had had a driveway put in and it would need to be widened to deliver an entire house. Along with that, we had a cart path to the water added because the land is really steep. I'm not all about having a near vertical staircase to the water. The company had completed all the work a few weeks prior. We met them a couple days later for a walkthrough and were absolutely thrilled with the work done. But one thing we noticed is that someone had been there and had done donuts on the pad area. Our land guy was not happy, but he said he'd fix it. But we were more concerned about the unwanted visitors. To compound things, the day after the walkthrough, we got some really heavy storms, which had torrential rain. And then it rained constantly for the next 2 weeks. The hillside above the pad washed over the gravel, and the frontage of the pad washed away completely. The cart path to the water had developed large ruts. The driveway had not settled before the rain, so it was pretty much unusable. Since we were going to need more site work along with the repairs, we agreed with the land guy that he'd repair the pad area and driveway, and we would pay for the path repair and any modifications we would need to add for the house. But since we were heading into his busy season and we weren't 100% sure what was going there, we told him just to wait. While we're waiting for all that to happen, we start visiting all the manufactured home lots within a 2 or 3 hour radius. We're keeping the upper budget near what it is for the RVs, and I definitely want nicer over bigger. For that price, we are exclusively looking at single section homes. I'm fine with either 2 or 3 bedroom floor plans, as I figured that's way more sleeping space than what we've been previously looking at. I think having a couple bunk beds is probably better than loft mats, and even better if it's a 3 bedroom with 1 set of bunks plus another room. Jay is not convinced about any of this, but there are some excellent floor plans that we tour. This goes on for about a month since we're limited to Fridays while the kids are at school and some Saturdays. But a lot of those places close at 2 p.m. on Saturdays, so advanced planning is a must. One of these Saturdays, we are at a lot about 2 hours away from home, and we've looked at several single sections. Usual situation. There are 2 or 3 that I like, and Jay remains unconvinced. There's a short double section next to the parking lot, and I ask if I can go see it, even though it's out of budget and it's obviously not a single. It's a simple layout, and nothing about it is exceptional. But it's kind of perfect. I was videoing on my phone at this point because the homes were starting to run together. I walk in, and you can hear me go, "Oh." It was so darling, but also they have it overpriced despite the fact that it's part of their lot model sale. I'll cut to the chase on this one. My instinct was correct about this home, and I can buy it elsewhere for about 30 grand cheaper. The sales girl, who was excellent in person, starts playing games over the phone. It all ends with her texting me about 4 days later asking where am I on the house, and I reply that I'm still waiting for her best price. She never texted me back. They still had that house 6 months later. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This is totally where my rant about the manufactured sales economy goes, but that is a side quest for another time. Later that night, Jay tells me that he thinks we should stop looking at single section homes and start looking at doubles. Basically saying, let's start over again. At this point, we've been looking another 2 months, and he wants to start over again. I lose my shit. After I'm done being frustrated because my husband can't make up his mind, I shift gears. His wants are a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with an office space or a bonus room and full finished sheetrock, not the seamed board and batten panels. I run the numbers. This does not exist in the budget we currently have. He can have 2 of the 3, but if he wants all of his wants, the budget has to increase. We go around and around about it, and he agrees to increase the budget, but not by a lot. We started the process over again, revisiting some of the local lots again and exploring a few others a little further out. But as things always are, the ones that we both really like are definitely out of the budget. I keep thinking about the one I loved where the girl ghosted me after I asked for her best price. Now that we had increased the budget, that one was now a contender. We definitely weren't going back to that dealer, so I was keeping an eye out for another one somewhere else. I pretty much decided that I wanted a lot model rather than order a home. I felt it gave me a better chance of negotiating a good deal. This worked for us because most salespeople depend on the emotional aspect. They bank on you falling in love with the item and getting attached. This applies to a lot of things: houses, cars, RVs, etc. While I will try to plan on an item, I can't visualize myself in something so I don't ever really get attached. That, combined with my need to get a good deal, makes me an absolute nightmare to deal with. I have a long and varied history with this, and I'm always upfront with the salespeople. I let them know what my expectations are, and I give them a friendly warning about not lying to me or jerking me around. I will 100% walk away. Some people listen and we have a great time while shopping. Others, not so much. In the manufactured home sphere, there's definitely a lot of shady shit going on, more than anything else I've ever experienced. My BS meter has been going off constantly during this process. It was ridiculous. Here's where I'm torn about the story. I have several subplots about individual dealerships, and most of them are pretty funny. But this series is already way longer than it should be. I think I might tell them as short or as an actual side quest video. Let me know if that's something you want to hear or you're like, oh, please, God, no more. Red flags. Red flags everywhere. Fast forward a couple of months and several side quests later. A dealership that I liked quite a bit posted on Facebook that they were selling a lot model at a deeply discounted price because this thing was massive and they needed the space for some new models that were incoming. I'd been to this place twice, once alone and once with Jay. I walked this model but had not shown it to Jay when he visited because the more large units he saw, the bigger homes he wanted. But this was a deal and it was super nice. It was a Friday afternoon, so Jay was off work. Dealership was about 90 minutes away from our house, and it wasn't too far from the lake lot. I told Jay we should get in the car and go see it because it really did check all the boxes. It was in our budget, and I liked it well enough despite the large size. It was also one of the better regarded dealerships. We drive down immediately, and Jay likes the house. He's nervous about committing to it, and I tell him if we don't put a deposit down that day, it will not be there by close of business Saturday. It turns out I was right because when we went to put the deposit down, the file for that unit was on another salesperson's desk who had already left for the day. I should have recognized that as a warning sign. This was the first red flag. Apparently, everybody was heading home early that day, despite them being open another hour. Our sales guy grabbed the file from the other person's desk, and we began doing the paperwork and paying the deposit. The main finance person has also already left for the day, but another lady could do the prelim stuff, so it was all ready to go when she came back the next morning. It's probably not surprising that I'm incredibly particular about our finances, and in addition to that, we've been saving and planning for this project for years. So I'm asking the lady questions about what interest rates they were seeing, because if they weren't exceptional, I already have a pre-approval with an outside company. She asked about our credit, and I said it was usually around 850, but It was probably a little lower than that because we'd closed on the land loan a few months prior, so I expected it to be somewhere around 820, 830. She stopped, looked at me, and said, "Gosh, I don't think we've ever had anyone above 800 before." That was the second red flag. For some unknown reason, I wasn't particularly concerned about it though. This was a very well regarded dealership, and I can assure you that that's not common. It was also one of the few places where I didn't get the ick off of anybody. The lady said that we were probably in excellent shape because there were current promotions, so we probably would get a really great rate. The average mortgage rate was rapidly approaching 9% at the time, and we definitely weren't going to get any of the first time buyer incentives. I'm skipping over a lot of details here, but it turns out that manufactured home loans aren't quite like auto loans. If you have excellent credit, you don't qualify for any of the incentives, and your rate is horrific. I actually laughed when the options came back. One of them was over 10% with something like $20,000 down. I did shop loans and loan rates, but ultimately went with my original loan person. We get through all of that and begin the waiting game. 2 or 3 weeks go by and we don't hear anything. I'd gotten it into my head that I wanted everything done by the end of August so we could do S's birthday at the new lake house. And I told the dealership I wanted this done ASAP, and they agreed wholeheartedly since they wanted the house off the lot. I think we put the deposit down mid May, and we were now into June, so I'm starting to get a little antsy. I've been spending my days creating boards in Milanote, modifications, layouts, furniture decor, everything, room by room. By the way, Milanote is an excellent ADHD containment software. No, I'm not sponsored, but hey, I could be. Milanote, call me. I'd already wanted to hit up the Memorial Day furniture sales, but I was not going to buy anything for this house until it was sitting on my lot. And I am so glad I waited. After a series of calls and emails, things start moving forward again. A guy from the dealership calls and says he needs to go out to our land so he can plan things out. He also says we don't have to meet him there and that he can call from there if he has any questions. Excellent. I'm getting super excited now. We had discussed the land and all of our potential concerns at length with the dealership even before we put down the deposit. We even showed them pictures and such describing where we wanted things to go. We knew we would need to expand the pad that was already there due to the length of the house. The added bonus to using this particular dealership was that they were local to the lake and had extensive experience with its nuances and quirks. Imagine my delight when the guy calls and pretty much tells me he will not deliver a home to this lot. When I ask for alternatives, options, things like that, his only suggestion is to clear the trees along the road and put a pad there. But they won't do that work for us like they would normally do. I actually contacted our land guy for the cost, and he quoted another $20,000 for work I would rather not do. One of the big draws to this land is the fact that you can actually build a whole 2-story house on the RV pad and never see it from the road. Why would I want to clear the trees? In retrospect, I came up with another red flag. Despite Jay explicitly telling them that he was unreachable by phone and email during business hours, Monday through Thursday, and the fact that the initial visit to the dealership was when I was by myself, they would only contact him or respond to his emails. If I reached out, didn't matter how, phone, email, text, I was almost always ignored. And this happened with several different people. In fact, the only person who spoke with me over the phone was the guy who called from the land to tell me he wouldn't deliver the house. And I'm fairly certain he was the owner. Want to hear my conspiracy theory about the whole thing? Well, I hope you said yes because I'm going to tell you anyway. The deposit on the house was non refundable. I figured that since they were the ones who technically broke the contract and not us, they should refund the entire deposit. Thankfully, they agreed. They said they'd cut us a check during the next run. We only had to remind them twice, and it only took another 5 weeks. Y'all know I'm a nosy bee, right? Well, I noticed some weird stuff along the way, and after I looked at the situation in hindsight, I have a pretty good idea of what actually happened. I'll tell you my theory, but I'm not telling you why I came up with this theory or how I know some of these things. This is my disclaimer about how this is all my opinion or things I just completely made up for legal reasons. Here's what really happened. There was another couple looking at the house. Remember when I said the file for the house was on another person's desk? Well, I think that salesperson sold the house before they left for the day, but they didn't get the deposit. That's against policy. They told the other couple that they'd hold the house until the next morning and they could pay the deposit then. Then he leaves for the day with the file securely on his desk. At the same time, Jay and I are there touring the house. We then decide to buy the house, but we actually put the deposit money down on the spot. Now the dealership has a problem. They've sold one house 2 times. Technically, the other couple was first, but we were the first to put money down. But chances are that one of us will drop out for a variety of reasons. It happens all the time. There's actually an excellent chance that the other couple won't make it through financing. That's what the initial delay was. The dealership was waiting to see if the other couple was going to get financing. Not only were we second, we were using outside financing so they wouldn't get any of the kickbacks or whatever handshake deal they have arranged with the mortgage companies. But they didn't want to tell us or cut us loose because if the other deal fell through, then they'd have lost 2 sales. And we were a guaranteed sale. Not to mention, there may have even been legal ramifications since we paid the deposit and signed the contract first. But they stood to make more money from the other couple. The weeks go on, and neither one of us back out. The other couple doesn't need the house until August or September. We want it sooner, but they keep drawing everything out, especially when they deal with our financing. We keep pressing, so they have to do something. So they go out to the land alone, so we can't actively dispute them, and they start looking for reasons to back out. We've since been told by 3 other companies that they really should have no problem setting or delivering a house where we wanted it. So it's almost definitely a BS excuse. So that's why the guy ultimately goes with suggesting putting the house next to the road. Not only would it be extremely expensive, nobody in their right mind would ever want to put a house in that location as opposed to any other spot on the land. So they're covered either way. We have a reason to back out of the contract so no one has to admit they screwed up back in May and they didn't have the balls to tell us. Or they were trying to have the best of both worlds. Our sales guy knew 100% that I would walk away, but that I'd also press the issue in some way or another. Either I'd ask for the same discount on another house, or I might go the legal route, or even worse, social media. So it was probably smart they didn't put up a fight when I asked them to refund the deposit. The deal on the manufactured house falling through hit me really hard. It wasn't that I was attached to it. I can easily order one just like it, or even better, customized, and have it in a few months. It was more all the time and effort just wasted. Nothing to show for all the work. All the Milanote boards. This was what? The 3rd time we were starting over? We were well into June now, and I was a mess. I mentioned that we had visited a bunch of different dealerships, and I'm really saving you all those details. But there was actually another dealership that I liked much better than the dealership we bought that house from. We had only gone with the previous one because it was such an amazing deal. We visited this other one a few times because they had an excellent selection, great pricing, and the best people. The manager, Nate, was a complete hoot, and his right hand, Mary, loved crawling through the houses, assembled or not, almost as much as I did. They had a couple homes I just loved, but were completely out of our budget. But they also had 4 lot models that were in budget, and although they weren't 100% perfect, they would do just fine. The issue now is that we were paranoid. The 4 homes were all very different layouts and wildly different dimensions. I had a group email with Jay, Nate, and Mary that had started long before we put the deposit down on the other house. We were emailing because their phones were perpetually down. I pulled up the previously abandoned email thread and told them that we were ready to buy, but that we had concerns about the ability to put a home where we wanted it. Nate said he completely understood and that he would personally go over to the land, which was about 45 minutes away, the next day and check things out. 3 days later, I hadn't heard back, so I emailed again. Nate apologized and said something had come up, and he had planned on heading that way later in the day. A week goes by, and now it's a couple days before my birthday in mid-June. We are rapidly approaching the imaginary drop-dead date in late August so we can have S's 18th birthday party. I sent another email that said, I have my financing ready to go. Also, in that email, I detailed the 4 homes I was considering and then told them that depending on Nate's observations of the land, I would come by and put a deposit down on whichever home fit the lot best. That I would come buy myself a house for my birthday that upcoming weekend. I would not hear back from them until 4 months later in October. By the end of that same week, I was not a happy camper. We had decided to go to a different area that next Friday. There's a very funny side quest about the first place we went that day that will endear me to the family that owns it forever. But the short version of the story is that we ended up spending the entire day there and we ended up telling them the entire story of the house falling through and then getting ghosted by the other place. The owner slash dad said that it is one heck of a story and that he would come down to look at the land just to put our mind at ease. The only day he could do it, I had to be in a nearby big city for one of my kids' doctor's appointments. He said it was fine and he could go without me. When we were at their dealership, he'd been driving a massive dually 4-wheel drive truck, so I didn't think the gravel driveway would be a problem for him, even though we had not fixed it yet. As I was getting into the car to begin the 2-hour drive from our house, he calls and tells me that he drove the other truck and was now stuck at the bottom of our driveway at the land. Normally, I would offer to drive down and call AAA or something, but there was no way I could even attempt it until after the appointment. It would be at least 5 hours. I was super embarrassed and apologized profusely. He said it really wasn't a big deal and that he would call a buddy to come haul him out. He said that while he had me on the phone, he really loved our lot and we could put whatever we wanted there, and that there were definitely shenanigans with the first house, first company. He also agreed that we'd have to do a little more site work for the foundation and that he would get a buddy of his to give him more clarity on exactly what that would entail and a cost estimate. Tiny homes and custom cabins. That was a little bit of a digression, but it becomes important later. We spent so long at that place on Friday that we ended up driving back down the next day to go to the other place we were supposed to go that day. Our oldest kid, S, went with us. This was a bit different. I had found this place mid February before we had even closed on the land. These were custom tiny homes and cabins, and I had gotten a model and price list back at the beginning and had loved everything about them. S also loved the tiny homes. We spent a good bit of time going through pictures online beforehand. Since we were going on a Saturday, he jumped at the chance to go. Everything was great. We got along well with the owner, Tom, and really liked his product. Then he showed us his new concept where he was combining 2 tiny homes to make a small cabin. We were in love. We told him that S was the reason that we had revisited this, which was true. He suggested it after all the other disasters. I asked about timelines and remarked that I didn't think that the party was going to happen. Tom said that since S was the reason and it was his 18th birthday, he would make it happen so long as I helped him design the floor plan. I have been hobby designing floor plans since I was a kid, so I jumped at the chance. We shook on it. It was the day before my birthday, which was significant because we had signed the papers to build our current home the day before my birthday in 2005. I took it as a sign that things were finally beginning to turn around. I'm an idiot. So that's what made it all the more awkward when the dad owner from the other company got stuck down the driveway later that week. I was so embarrassed about him getting stuck and the fact that it happened after we decided to go with someone else that I was very nearly sick about it. So this time I was actually relieved when he never followed up again after he spoke to his land buddy. Things actually progressed really well after that weekend. Tom and I collaborated well, and we had a workable and affordable floor plan in about 10 days on the new cabin. My amazing finance lady had really been working her magic on the side, too. Since this was a relatively new concept, being 2 sub 400 square foot homes on a chassis assembled on site, it wasn't a park model RV cabin or modular home. Not only was it basically a unicorn, it also didn't have any comparables. Magic Finance Lady took it to the head of her mortgage company and got special approval to finance the thing and get the site prep costs covered under a construction loan. Since we were already approved for everything, all they had to do was vet Tom and his company and make sure they were legitimate. I'm sure they have had unscrupulous builders just take the money and run before. So they send the builder financing packet to Tom. I was pre-approved long before we put the deposit down on that manufactured home, so we were all waiting on him. A week or so goes by, and Tom tells me he's ready to purchase the 2 chassis to go under the house. and that he needs his $50,000 deposit. I'm confused and gently remind him that he knows I don't have anywhere near that amount of cash and that we're waiting on him to complete the builder packet, and the mortgage company is ready to cut him a check for the first installment as soon as he sends that in. He sends me a screenshot of the builder packet. Now, let me tell you, I'm very familiar with the business loan financial packet because that was my job a lifetime ago. This was the most basic, vanilla, one entire sheet of information financial request I have ever seen. It was basically, what is your business name, license number, builder's license number, proof of insurance, and 2 years of company financials or owner tax returns if it's a sole proprietorship. Most of this I probably could find on the internet with a desire, time, and effort. Under the screenshot of the packet, he texts, I don't give out this information. And I text back, just send them what you're willing to give them. That was the last time I ever heard from Tom. A little while later, I spoke to Magic Finance Lady. She said she spoke to Tom and her manager spoke to Tom, and that he felt we were the ones getting the loan, so why did they need his information? They both explained to him that we had already been thoroughly vetted, but they weren't just going to give some rando a stack of cash without some verification that he was legitimate. He would not budge. I wanted to try to talk to Tom, but Jay was having none of it. He feels that Tom is obviously doing something shady. Normally, I would 100% agree. I have no patience for financial shenanigans. But I honestly think it's something more like small town paranoia. What I can't reconcile in my head is that Tom has done a lot of other tiny homes. I understand that the commercial properties and RV parks probably had their own financing or paid cash. And I understand that retirees who sold their big home and they use the proceeds to pay for their tiny homes when they downsize. But there are quite a few of his homes all over the area, and he seems like he's still doing a booming business, at least according to his Facebook page. Certainly not all of these folks are paying cash. Anyway, we did not have the 18th birthday party at the lake this year. And the next weekend, I rage purchased an RV that I did not research. Stay tuned for the last installment of the story and see how it ends. Leave a comment, tell me I'm ridiculous, like, and subscribe. Until the next one.